This is a real-time tutorial using Crayola super tips. If you want to learn how to do faux calligraphy with any regular marker or pen, check out my channel, or I'll have it in the description box. And I also have a real-time video using real brush pens. Welcome back, everyone. I post videos every week. Make sure you subscribe. So we're going to start off with some lettering basics. Don't stress if you don't remember all of these terms. It's not super important, but this is the baseline. You have an ascender, which extends above the line. You have a descender, which extends below the line. A mean line, which is this middle line right here. A downstroke, which is the thickest part of the letters, and an upstroke, which is the thinnest part of each letter. It's also known as a hairline, but more commonly an upstroke. These are the two most important to know, are the downstroke and upstroke. And you have a cross stroke, which is the line that crosses the letter T. So these are the basic strokes. It's not super important to remember the names of these or anything, but this is your guide. You can create any letter of the alphabet using these basic strokes. So if I want to create the letter D, I'm going to take an oval and an ascender loop, and I'm going to combine the two to create my D. I'm holding my super tip Crayola marker at a 45-degree angle, not straight up and down, and I'm doing thin upstrokes and thick downstrokes, so I combined the oval and the ascender loop. I suggest you practice along with me and you write down these basic strokes so that you have your own guide. I'm creating a C using part of the oval stroke, and I want to go over the downstrokes just to really point out to you where they are. To create an H, I'm going to take an ascender loop and a compound stroke and combine the two. The most important thing to remember is thin upstrokes and thick downstrokes. And like I said, I'm going to go over all the downstrokes in this video so you really know where the downstrokes are. Start off by practicing these drills. I'm doing thin upstrokes and thick downstrokes. This is really helpful to help you really get the hang of the pressure. And go ahead and just copy what I'm doing and make a thin stroked arrow and write thin going up, and a thick arrow to represent thick strokes going down. That, like I already said, it's the most important part. And I'm going to show you how to one or two variations of each letter of the alphabet. Remember to hold your pen at a 45-degree angle, not straight up and down above the paper. So I'm doing thin upstrokes and thick downstrokes. I'm going up and down, and I'm going to go over the downstrokes on all the letters for this entire video to really emphasize all of my downstrokes. And I also want to show you, if you can't get the hang of adjusting the pressure as you're doing the letter, you could hold your pen straight up and down to get the same thickness, and it's going to be thin if you're holding it straight up and down above the paper. And then you could just create faux calligraphy by adding in a line where the downstrokes would be like this, or you could do the same method as the second letter and just put more pressure on the downstrokes, so you're filling in the line as you're creating it. So if you can't get the first method down, you could do any of these methods to create your calligraphy. This is how I did it at the beginning. I usually did the third letter. I'm gonna cut the mic. I'm gonna let you pay attention to the letters and focus. So all I have to say is practice, 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 and I will be cheering you on from the sidelines, I'm so proud of you for practicing with me, and let me know how this video helped you, if I explained things enough, if I didn't explain it enough. Let me know in the comments and give it a thumbs up if you like this video. I meant to start with the more oval part first, so you want to start with the left side of the letter first. And like I said, I'm showing you one or two variations of each letter. For the B and D I showed 3, but some of them are more closed off, some of them are more open. It's up to you to decide which one you like. I use most of these all the time. It really just depends on the style that I'm going for the specific word. There are many more ways to draw each letter, but these are your basic ways. These are what I use all the time, and they are very popular, so they're great beginner letters. Make sure you leave a little bit of a space in between this top loop on the H and the compound stroke on the bottom of the letter. You want to leave a little bit of a space. I see a lot of people, and sometimes I mess up too, and I have the top loop touching the bottom hump. There should always be a little space for these types of letters, so lowercase h's, k's, b's, they should all have a gap between the top loop and the bottom part of the letter. I like practicing with a spiral bound notebook because it's easy to work with. The composition notebooks don't stay open and it's always in the way, making it harder for me to draw. So I do recommend just a spiral bound so it stays open. And I like to put a composition notebook on the left side of my spiral bound because I am left-handed and it makes it more level for me to write. So there's just a little tip I wanted to say. Also, when you're making these downstrokes, you want to make them kind of more squared off. See, the bottom of the K's aren't pointy, the line is more square. And you want to gradually do the thicker lines so you don't see a harsh line. You see how it's kind of going gradually bigger from the thin line. Same as the H's, I made sure to leave a little bit of space between the top loop and the bottom loop for the K's. For this second M, you want to use the same method as the K. You don't want that first loop touching the next part of the letter. This is actually the first M I ever learned, and I always revert to this one. I feel like it's not as popular as the first M, but I don't know, I like the second one and it's fun to learn. Just make sure you don't touch the first loop to the second part of the M. You want a little bit of a space between the bottom of the first loop and the first hump of the M. Same method as the second M, make sure the bottom of the first loop is not touching the hump of the N. This is the first P I ever learned, and it's really tricky to learn, but now when I write my regular handwriting, I revert to this P like it's just muscle memory, and this is what I always do without even thinking about it. So I'm gonna pause it right here so you can get a good look and make sure the top loop doesn't touch the hump of the P. I totally skipped the Q at first, so I had to go back. I left a space for it, but I apparently forgot to draw it. So I'm going to show the Q right here, and then we'll move on to the next letters. You can play around by making this middle line rounder or sharper. I tend to like them sharper. Here's a last look at all the letters before we move on to connecting our letters. I'm going to show you the ways to connect your letters, and then maybe you should pause the video and try to replicate it. So as I go along, I'm going to pause and lift my pen before each letter. This is a huge mistake when people don't lift their pen between each letter. You want to get those little lines in between the letters nice and smooth. You don't want them too sharp or too round. You want them just right. And if you don't pause between each letter, it's not going to look as pretty. So I'm going to also show you how to make your letters bounce. The key is to have some letters above the baseline. The E is at the baseline. There's an L above the baseline. There's an L below the baseline. And you have the O, which is above the baseline. I did the same amount of pressure holding the pen at a 90-degree angle just to show if you can't get the line variation right. You could just go ahead and draw those thick strokes in. And then I'm going to show you the same method, but filling those thick strokes in instead of leaving them empty. So once I show you this, go ahead and try to do each method on your own and let me know how you did in the comments. I just wanted to show you, you could even use a regular pen. This pen is from a bank, I think, just like one of those free pens that you get. So even if you don't have any supplies, you can create awesome lettering and you can practice with the pen. Sometimes it does get expensive if you're practicing a lot to use actual calligraphy pens, or even if you're running out of crayola markers all the time. So it is nice to practice with a regular pen as well. And I have these in a few of my other videos, so skip over it if you've already seen it. But I just wanted to show you a few fonts that I use all the time on a daily basis. This Sans-Serif font is the first one, and the second one is a serif font. Serif just means it has these little ticks on the ends of the letters, and I'm giving you just a lowercase alphabet to work with. And this last one is one of my favorites. You can really change it up. You can add dots inside the hollow parts of the letter. You could add stripes, you could add stars, and you could even make it a serif font by adding in little ticks on the ends of the letters. Well, thank you so much for watching. I'm so proud of you, and check out my playlist in the description box.